to the Deep Dive by Global Heroes, your go-to for the real stories behind real heroes. Get more inspiring content in your inbox with our newsletter, and be sure to follow along on social media.
Okay, so we're doing a deep dive today into something pretty special. Imagine stepping into this incredible landscape. Ancient forests, tons of wildlife.
Right. But not just, looking at it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Imagine being guided by people whose ancestors have, literally stewarded that land for millennia.
That's the experience we're digging into. We've got some material describing this adventure retreat in the Great Bear Rainforest. It's offered by Seawolf Adventures, working with Sointula Lodge.
Mm-hmm. And our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, isn't just to list the features. We want to get to the heart of it. How does it actually combine the wilderness, the culture, the comfort to create something genuinely insightful?
Well, the location itself says a lot. The sources place it right on the edge of the Broughton Archipelago.
So deep in the Great Bear Rainforest.
Deep in there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's this amazing, vital ecosystem. You know straight away it's not your average vacation spot.
Okay, so the basics. It's pitched as an all-inclusive trip, right? 4 days, 3 nights.
That's the package described, yeah. But like you said, the really interesting bit in the sources is how they talk about the blend.
Right. It's not just, here's a hike, here's a boat trip.
Exactly. It really emphasized exploring this pristine wilderness, sure, but it's deeply woven with an immersion in Kwakwaka'wakw culture.
Okay.
And obviously the wildlife. You're in the Pacific Northwest, you expect incredible wildlife encounters.
And it sounds like you're not exactly roughing it either.
No, definitely not. The source mentions Sointula Lodge as the base camp, basically. Describes it as serene, with these cabins that are thoughtfully designed.
Rustic term, but comfortable.
That's the vibe, yeah. Rustic charm, modern amenities. Sounds like a good place to unwind after being out all day.
Makes sense. What about food? Did the sources mention that?
They did, yeah. They talk about communal dining. And the meals use local ingredients. They specifically tie that back to supporting, sustainable practices in the area.
Okay, that's good. But let's get to what feels like the core element based on these descriptions, the indigenous-led aspect.
Huge, yeah. The sources make a big point of this. Seawolf Adventures is indigenous-owned and operated.
So the guides aren't just people who know about birds or trees.
Right. They're sharing stories, knowledge, insights that have been passed down for generations. It's about seeing the land through, an ancestral lens.
That just sounds profound. It really makes you think, what does it mean to experience a place that way?
Totally. The source material hints that it changes everything. You're not just looking at, say, an old cedar forest or a river full of salmon.
You're understanding its significance, its history.
Its spirit, maybe, as shared by the people who live there forever. That shift in perspective, that feels like the real takeaway.
And the activities themselves sound incredible. Guided wildlife tours. I mean, picturing grizzlies on the riverbanks.
Or whales out in the water, yeah.
Amazing.
And it goes beyond just spotting animals. The sources mentioned boat journeys through fjords. Imagine how breathtaking that must be.
Wow.
Plus visits to ancient village sites. Actually walking where people lived long ago.
And forest walks. Mossy forests.
Yep, moss-draped forests. And seeing culturally significant sites like ancient petroglyphs.
Petroglyphs, those rock carvings. Seeing those explained by someone whose culture is connected to them. That's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes that the guides weave it all together. The wildlife, the landscape, the history through their stories and their ecological knowledge.
Even the evenings sound special. Fireside stories. Stargazing.
Seems like it. It all feels geared towards getting guests to, slow down, really connect, absorb it all.
And thinking bigger picture. The sources mention the impact of visiting. It's not just tourism, is it?
No, it's presented as more than that.
Yeah.
Guests are directly supporting indigenous-led conservation.
Community-based tourism.
Right. It helps sustain cultural practices, protects the ecosystem, creates actual economic opportunities in these remote communities. It supports a way of caring for the land that's worked for millennia.
That adds a whole other layer of value. Did the sources give any practical info, like dates or cost?
Yeah, a few details. The inaugural season for this particular trip is set for September 3rd to October 15th, 2025.
Okay, good to know if you're planning ahead.
And the price mentioned starts around 5,333 Canadian dollars per person, double occupancy. They also say there are special rates for kids, ages 10 to 16. So maybe a family thing too.
Interesting.
And importantly, they mention Space is limited.
Which makes sense. Keeps it intimate, right?
Yeah.
Better for that deep cultural connection and probably better for the environment, too.
Exactly. It's not about packing people in.
So wrapping this up, for you listening, what's the essence here? Based on these sources, it's way more than just a trip to see bears.
Definitely. It's an adventure, yes, but one that seems to deeply braid together that wild nature with a really profound cultural connection.
All guided by indigenous knowledge holders, plus comfort, plus knowing your visit actually supports conservation and the community. They even give you the practicals, the dates, the cost range.
And maybe, for you, the listener, it's a chance to think about travel differently. What happens when you focus on slowing down? On really listening to the stories the land and its people hold?
Yeah, how does that kind of experience seeing a place through the eyes and stories of those who've been there forever, how does that change how we see wilderness and maybe even our own role within it?
Something to think about.
Definitely something to ponder.
That's it for today's deep dive. Want more? Catch It's a Beautiful World on Prime Video and stay connected with global heroes through our newsletter and socials.